At 94, Angie Dickinson finally tells the truth about Ricky Nelson. Angie Dickinson was born Angeline Brown on September 30th, 1931 in Colm, North Dakota. She grew up during the Great Depression in a modest, hard-working family. Her father was a newspaper editor and publisher, and from him she inherited a sharp intellect, a curiosity about the world, and a respect for words and ideas. When the family relocated to California, Dickinson's horizons widened, and she soon revealed a natural poise and presence that set her apart from her peers. Angie Dickinson did not initially set out to become a movie star. She attended Glendale Community College and later Immaculate Heart College in Los Angeles studying business and drama. And it was almost by chance that her career began. A beauty contest appearance on television in the early 1950s led to a contract with Columbia Pictures, launching her into Hollywood at a time when the studio system still held sway. What distinguished Dickinson early on was not merely her striking looks, though she was undeniably glamorous, but a grounded, intelligent demeanor. She projected warmth, wit, and emotional realism, qualities that made audiences feel she was someone they could know, not just admire from afar. Her early film work throughout the 1950s showed steady growth as she moved from small supporting roles to more substantial parts. A major turning point came with Howard Hawks' Rio Bravo, 1959, in which she starred opposite John Wayne and Dean Martin. As Feathers, a confident and sensual saloon singer, Dickinson delivered a performance that was both playful and strong, embodying a woman who could hold her own among powerful men without sacrificing femininity or independence. The role made her a star and cemented her reputation as an actress capable of blending toughness with vulnerability, a combination that would become her hallmark throughout the 1960s. Angie Dickinson enjoyed a prolific and varied film career. She appeared in dramas, westerns, comedies, and thrillers, refusing to be confined to a single type. Films such as Ocean's 11, 1960, The Killers, 1964, and Point Blank, 1967, showcased her versatility and willingness to take risks. In Point Blank, her performance opposite Lee Marvin was particularly striking, marked by emotional restraint and psychological complexity that reflected the changing tone of American cinema. Dickinson adapted gracefully to this shift, proving she could thrive in both the polished studio productions of the 1950s and the grittier, more introspective films of the late 1960s. While her film career flourished, Angie Dickinson also became a dominant presence on television where she would make history. In 1974, she starred in Policewoman, becoming the first woman to headline a successful television drama series as a police officer. At a time when female characters were often relegated to secondary or decorative roles, Dickinson's portrayal of Sergeant Susan Pepper Anderson was groundbreaking. She played the character with authority, intelligence, and empathy, presenting a woman who was professional, capable, and courageous while still being emotionally human. The series was a major hit and had a lasting cultural impact, inspiring future generations of female-led crime dramas and helping to open doors for women in television storytelling. As the years progressed, Angie Dickinson chose her roles more selectively, appearing in notable films such as Dressed to Kill, 1980, which introduced her to a new generation of audiences and reaffirmed her fearless approach to acting. Even as Hollywood changed and roles for women of a generation became rarer, Dickinson remained respected and admired, not only for her talent, but for her integrity and authenticity. She never relied solely on nostalgia. Instead, she allowed her body of work to speak for itself. By the early 1990s, she had reached a stage in her career where she no longer needed to prove anything. Yet she continued to surprise audiences by fearlessly reinventing herself in bold, often unsettling roles that are in ABC's provocative miniseries Wild Palms, 1993. Produced by Oliver Stone, she delivered one of her most chilling performances as the sadistic militant sister of Senator Tony Krutzer, portrayed with icy authority by Robert Lawyer. The role allowed her to shed inner lingering glamour associated with her earlier screen image and embrace something darker, more political, and deeply unsettling. Her presence in Wild Palms added an emotional intensity and moral ambiguity that lingered long after the credits rolled, reinforcing her reputation as an actress unafraid to venture into controversial territory. That same year, she took another dramatic left turn by starring as a ruthless Montana spa owner in Gus Van Zeven Cowgirls Get the Blues, sharing the screen with Uma Thurman. In a film known for its eccentric tone and offbeat sensibility, her performance stood out for its sharp edges and unapologetic ferocity. She embodied power, entitlement, and cruelty with a confidence that made the character both fascinating and disturbing. Rather than soften the role, she leaned fully into its excesses, once again demonstrating her willingness to challenge audience expectations and take creative risks at a point in her career when many of her contemporaries were playing it safe. Off-screen, her independence was just as striking. In November of that same year, she made headlines when she abruptly walked off the set of a proposed This Is Your Life television special meant to celebrate her career. Unwilling to participate in a format she felt misrepresented her or reduced her life to sentimental spectacle, she refused to go along with the production. The moment became emblematic of her fierce self-respect and her refusal to allow Hollywood or television to define her narrative on its own terms. Her career momentum continued into the mid-1990s with a series of high-profile and sharply contrasting roles. In 1995, director Sidney Pollack cast her as the formidable prospective mother-in-law of Greg Conner in Sabrina, the romantic comedy starring Harrison Ford and a modern remake of Billy Wilder's beloved classic. With impeccable timing and understated authority, she brought sophistication and bite to the role, proving once again that she could elevate even a supporting character into something memorable. That same year, she appeared as Burt Reynolds' wife in the psychological thriller The Maddening, adding emotional weight and tension to the story, while also playing the Shorpton-Jed mother of Rick Aiello and Robert Cicchini in the National Lampoon comedy, The Dawn's Analyst. Moving effortlessly between drama and broad comedy, she showcased her remarkable range and adaptability, slipping into each role with a confidence born of decades of experience. In 1997, she delighted television audiences with a sly self-aware turn on HBO's The Larry Sanders Show. In the episode aptly titled Artie and Angie and Hank and Hercules, she reunited with Ripto Artie, portraying an old flame whose seductive spark still burned brightly. The performance was both playful and poignant, blending humor, nostalgia, and unmistakable chemistry. It served as yet another reminder that her screen presence, whether menacing, comedic, or seductive, remained as compelling as ever, cementing her status as a true Hollywood original, who continued to command attention well into the later chapters of her career. Dickinson's personal life unfolded with the same mix of glamour, complexity, and quiet resilience that marked her public career. In 1952, she married Gene Dickinson, a former college football player whose life after sports took him into the growing world of electronics at the time. The match seemed to promise stability and conventional happiness, yet the realities of two ambitious lives gradually pulled them in different directions. Although their marriage officially lasted until 1960, the couple had separated 4 years earlier in 1956, signaling the emotional distance that had already taken hold. Despite the marriage ending, Dickinson chose to keep her married name after the divorce, a decision that reflected both personal identity and professional continuity during a period when women in the public eye often faced pressure to redefine themselves after marital change. During these years, Dickinson's world expanded far beyond Hollywood. She formed a close and intellectually stimulating friendship with the influential economist John Kenneth Galbraith and his wife Catherine Galbraith. Their relationship opened doors to a wider cultural and political sphere, introducing Dickinson to conversations and experiences far removed from the film sets and sound stages of her career. Her visits with the Galbraiths, as well as her extensive travels while John Kenneth Galbraith served as U.S. ambassador to India, left a lasting impression. These journeys, rich with observation and insight, were later vividly chronicled in Galbraith's memoirs, Ambassador's Journal, and A Life in Our Times, where Dickinson appears not merely as a celebrity companion, but as a curious, engaged presence in a world of diplomacy and global affairs. A new chapter in her life began in 1965 when Dickinson married renowned composer Burt Bacharach, one of the most celebrated and influential musical talents of his generation. Their union brought together two highly creative spirits, each operating at the peak of their respective fields. For 16 years, they shared a marriage shaped by artistic passion, professional demands, and the pressures that often accompany life in the public eye. As time passed, the relationship grew more complicated, and toward the later years of their marriage, they experienced a period of separation during which both dated other people. Even so, their bond endured longer than many Hollywood marriages, reflecting a deep, if imperfect, connection that on July 12, 1966, Dickinson and Bacharach welcomed their daughter Nikki, whose life would profoundly shape both parents. Nikki was autistic, and her challenges brought emotional strain and deep concern, particularly at a time when understanding and support for autism were far more limited than they are today. Her struggles continued into adulthood, and a tragic death by suicide on January 4, 2007 cast a long shadow over Dickinson's later years, marking one of the most painful chapters of her life. The loss was a reminder of the private grief that can exist behind even the most luminous public personas. Burt Bacharach himself passed away in 2023, closing the final chapter on a shared history that, despite its hardships, remained a defining part of Dickinson's personal story. At 94 years old, Angie Dickinson speaks with a clarity that only time can grant. The glamour of Hollywood has long faded into memory, and what remains is honesty, unfiltered, unguarded, and deeply human. When she finally opens up about Ricky Nelson, it is not with scandal or regret,